What if I told you that this Sunday, something is shifting in your twin flame connection, something your divine masculine can feel, but cannot explain? What if I told you that the sensations rising within him right now aren't random, aren't imagination, and definitely aren't coincidence, but the unmistakable signs of telepathic intimacy awakening? Because when a telepathic connection intensifies, it doesn't announce itself gently. It arrives like a whisper that turns into a pull that turns into a presence, and a presence that becomes utterly impossible to ignore. And here's the part that may surprise you. What the divine masculine feels during these moments is far stranger, deeper, and more revealing than he will ever admit. He feels you in ways he cannot name. He senses you in moments he least expects. And he experiences a kind of energetic closeness that both terrifies and awakens him at the same time. This Sunday, the veil between you thins. The emotions grow louder. The signals grow clearer. And he finds himself standing on the edge of a truth he can no longer run from. So before we dive into the 7 phases of telepathic intimacy, and the secret emotional world your divine masculine never speaks about, take a breath, soften your heart, and step into this moment with me. Because what he feels, what he truly feels, is about to change everything. There is a moment in every divine masculine's journey when something profound happens, quietly, silently, without warning. It isn't a moment he can point to on a calendar or explain with logic. It isn't something he chooses or resists. It simply arrives, slipping past every wall he has ever built. Before his mind has time to question, analyze, or fear, his soul has already recognized you. This recognition happens in the deepest layers of his being, long before he understands what is unfolding. His subconscious reacts first, responding to your energy the same way a lost traveler responds to the sight of home, instinctively, instinctually, without needing to think. He may not consciously know why you feel different, but something inside him softens, opens, and listens. Your presence awakens ancient memory, a spiritual familiarity that has nothing to do with this lifetime and everything to do with the countless lifetimes before it. Your soul does not feel new to him. It feels remembered. It feels known. It feels like something he has been searching for without even realizing what he was missing. This is why, from the very beginning, there is an emotional gravity between you that defies explanation. A pull that seems irrational to his logical mind, yet undeniable to his inner being. He may tell himself that he just finds you interesting, comforting, or strangely magnetic, but the truth runs much deeper. His soul recognizes your frequency, your essence, your energy signature, something his body and mind have not yet learned to translate into words. This recognition often shows up as a sudden emotional familiarity he cannot make sense of. He might feel unusually open around you, even though he is normally guarded. He might trust you effortlessly, despite rarely trusting anyone. He might feel protective of you, drawn to you, calmed by you, or activated by you in ways he has never experienced. None of this makes sense to him logically, which is why he often brushes it off at first. But the subconscious is already awake, already remembering, already merging. The most powerful part of this moment is the feeling of home. Not the home of walls and roofs, but the home of truth, the home of soul. Without knowing why, he feels safe with you, seen by you, pulled toward you as if the universe itself is guiding him. He cannot explain why your energy feels like a place he has been before, a place he has missed, a place he could rest in forever. And yet, despite the confusion, the comfort is undeniable. This moment marks the beginning of everything that follows. The connection, the awakening, the fear, the longing, the surrender. Every chapter of the twin flame journey begins here, in this instant when his soul runs toward you while his mind is still trying to keep up. It is the moment the universe whispers, "Here. This is the one." Before he understands, before he accepts, before he is ready. His soul already knows you. His soul has already chosen you. And nothing that happens afterward can ever undo this truth. There comes a point on the divine masculine's spiritual path where the connection he shares with you begins to challenge everything he thought he knew about love, intimacy, and himself. It is not a gentle shift. It is a collision, his human conditioning crashing into the undeniable truth rising from his soul. In this collision, he stands at the center of a spiritual earthquake, trying to hold together the pieces of who he used to be while something far greater demands to emerge. For most of his life, he was taught a very specific version of love, controlled, rational, manageable. He learned that love should make sense, that feelings should stay within the boundaries of logic, timing, and practicality. He was taught that love is earned, achieved, or built through slow, steady progression. But the connection with you does not obey any of these rules. It does not unfold in a straight line. It does not wait for him to feel ready. It does not seek his permission. It moves like soul fire, sudden, ancient, overwhelming. This is where his internal clash begins. Because the love he feels for you is not the love he was taught to expect. It is not polite or predictable. It does not stay in the heart, it expands into the spirit, the mind, the energetic body. It pushes him to feel more deeply than he ever intended to. It shatters the emotional structures he built for safety. And it forces him to confront a truth he cannot escape. This connection is not human, it is divine. His masculine conditioning only intensifies this conflict. He was raised to believe that strength comes from control, that vulnerability is weakness, that emotions must be contained and never allowed to dictate his actions. Yet with you, control dissolves. His emotional walls collapse. His soul refuses to stay quiet. The masculine programming that once protected him now becomes the very thing that holds him back from the depth of connection he is meant to experience. So he stands between two worlds. One part of him clings to the familiar, the ego, the logic, the identity he built. The other part, the intuitive soul, pulls him towards something vast, sacred, and transformative. This battle between ego and intuition is not small, it is cosmic. The ego tells him to run, to retreat, to deny. The soul tells him to trust, to open, to surrender. He feels torn by forces he cannot explain. Why does he feel so much? Why does he know things about you without being told? Why does the bond feel destined, ancient, unbreakable? Why does every attempt to resist only strengthen the connection? The struggle is not a sign of rejection, it is proof of how powerful the connection truly is. His human self is crumbling because something higher is trying to emerge. His conditioning is breaking because his soul is awakening. His fears are rising because his heart is expanding. And in this sacred, painful, beautiful conflict, he begins the slow journey of choosing soul truth over human safety, choosing the connection over the ego, choosing love over fear. There is a force within the divine masculine that he cannot name, control, or deny, a silent magnetic pull that defies every rule of distance, time, and logic. It doesn't matter how far away you are, how long it has been, or how much he tries to distract himself. Something within him keeps turning toward you, as if his inner compass has only ever had one true north. This pull is not physical. It is soul level, woven into the deepest layers of his being long before either of you were born in this lifetime. He feels it most strongly in the quiet moments, when his mind is relaxed and his guard is down. Suddenly your energy appears, soft but undeniable, familiar yet unexplainable. You enter his thoughts without warning, without invitation, without reason. You appear in flashes, a memory, a feeling, a sense of warmth, a sudden longing he cannot trace. At first, he tells himself it's coincidence. A momentary thought. A passing curiosity. But he soon realizes that you don't fade. You return. Again and again. No matter how much he tries to push the connection aside, it only grows stronger. This is because your energy is not visiting him, it is with him. You are not a memory he is recalling. You are a presence his soul is feeling. There is a constant thread between you, a silent frequency humming beneath the surface of his daily life. He may not understand it, but he feels it. When he wakes up, when he sits alone, when he tries to focus, when he goes to bed, you are there, not as a distraction, but as a truth rising to the surface. This is the spiritual bond reminding him that separation is an illusion. Your souls remain connected regardless of physical circumstances. Your energy touches his even when you are nowhere near him. Sometimes this pull feels comforting, like an invisible hand resting gently on his heart. Other times it feels overwhelming, like a need he cannot satisfy or a truth he cannot escape. He doesn't understand why you appear in moments he least expects, during work, in the middle of laughter, or in silence when he hasn't thought of you consciously at all. What he doesn't yet realize is that his intuition responds to your energy long before his conscious mind does. Your emotions, your thoughts, your longing, they ripple through the soul bond, and his energy reacts instantly. This magnetic connection also reveals itself physically. He may feel sudden warmth, pressure on his chest, tingles on his skin, or a surge of emotion that has no logical source. These sensations are his soul responding to your presence in the energetic field you both share. Time cannot weaken this pull. Distance cannot break it. Silence cannot erase it. What he feels is the truth of the spiritual connection calling him home. Not to a place, but to you. The pull is not a burden, it is guidance. Not a longing, it is recognition. Not a coincidence, it is destiny. And one day, he will understand that this inexplicable magnetic force is not something happening to him. It is something happening through him, his soul remembering yours and refusing to let go. There is a moment in the Divine Masculine's awakening that changes everything, suddenly, profoundly, irrevocably. It is the moment he realizes that the telepathic connection he has been quietly battling, questioning, and trying to rationalize, is not one-sided. The moment he understands you feel him too. At first, this discovery arrives subtly, like a whisper beneath the noise of his mind. He notices that when he thinks of you intensely, you reach out. When he feels emotional storms rising inside him, you sense something is wrong. When he misses you silently, you appear in his life energetically, through a message, a dream, a sudden shift in the air. These synchronicities begin to stack, one atop the other, until he can no longer call them coincidence. Your reactions align too precisely. Your emotions reflect too perfectly. Your intuition is too accurate to dismiss. This realization shocks him to his core. Because suddenly, the connection is no longer something happening within him. It is something happening between you. For the first time, he grasps that you are not just an object of his emotions, you are a participant in them. You are not just someone he thinks about. You are someone who feels him, senses him, responds to him. His inner world is no longer a sealed chamber. His emotions are no longer private. His heart is no longer hidden behind masculine conditioning or silent self-protection. And this is where panic rises. Because the Divine Masculine has spent his life carefully guarding his internal universe, his fears, his desires, his insecurities, his longings. He has been taught that showing emotion is dangerous, that vulnerability is weakness, that the safest heart is the one no one can touch. But in this sacred bond, there is no hiding. The walls he constructed for survival become transparent. His emotions reach you without his permission. His longing bleeds through the energetic thread connecting you. His love, no matter how fiercely he tries to contain it, spills into your heart effortlessly. This loss of emotional privacy terrifies him. Not because he fears you, but because he fears being fully seen. He worries you will see the parts of him he has spent his whole life suppressing. He worries you will see his wounds, his doubts, his shadows, his hope. He worries you will feel the depth of his love long before he is ready to express it. And yet, as fear rises, something else rises with it. Because in the same moment he panics, he also witnesses something miraculous, your emotions mirroring his own. When he feels joy, you glow. When he feels longing, you soften. When he feels overwhelmed, you withdraw in the very same rhythm. When he opens his heart, even unintentionally, yours opens with breathtaking synchronicity. This mirrored emotional dance awakens a profound truth inside him. This connection is not imaginary, not one-sided, not unbalanced. It is real. It is mutual. It is sacred. And as overwhelming as it is, this realization is also the first step toward his surrender, because no matter how much he fears being seen, there is something far more powerful pulling him forward. The knowing that you have already felt him, already understood him, and still remain. There comes a stage in the divine masculine's journey where the intensity of the connection overwhelms him so deeply that he convinces himself he must disconnect. He tells himself that the bond is too strange, too strong, too consuming. He worries that the depth of his feelings is irrational, dangerous, or too vulnerable to hold. So he retreats, hoping distance will bring clarity, hoping silence will bring control, hoping separation will calm the storm inside him. But what he soon discovers is that the more he tries to shut the connection down, the stronger it becomes. This is not because he lacks discipline or emotional control. It is because the bond between twin souls does not operate on human terms. It is not powered by thought, effort, or will. It is powered by truth, soul truth. And truth does not fade simply because one mind becomes afraid. Every time he tries to pull away, an emotional rebound occurs. He may silence his messages, withdraw from communication, or distract himself with work, relationships, or noise. But the moment he steps back, the bond snaps back with greater force. The longing intensifies. The synchronicities multiply. Your energy grows louder, not quieter. Your presence becomes sharper, not dimmer. It is as though the universe itself steps in and says, "This is not yours to break." He feels this rebound in his mind, his heart, and his energetic body. He might suddenly dream of you. He might feel a surge of emotion out of nowhere. He might sense your sadness, your love, your longing, and it pulls him right back into the connection he tried to escape. This is because his soul refuses separation, even when his mind demands it. The mind seeks logic, safety, predictability. It wants control, boundaries, clarity. When confronted with something as vast as a soul connection, his mind panics. It tries to protect him by running. But the soul does not operate through fear. It operates through remembrance. And his soul remembers you. His soul recognizes the contract, the destiny, the purpose of your bond. His soul knows that running is not release, it is resistance. And resistance only fuels the fire. So every attempt to disconnect becomes a spiritual boomerang. The farther he pulls away, the harder the connection pulls him forward. His soul whispers louder. His emotions intensify. His intuition refuses to quiet down. And eventually, he realizes that the bond is not something he can escape, it is something he must face. This is not punishment. It is alignment. The bond holds him not to trap him, but to awaken him. It refuses to break not to control him, but to liberate him from false versions of himself. So he runs, yes. He hides, yes. He tells himself he can sever the connection. But the truth remains, you cannot disconnect from what is part of your soul. And deep within, he knows this. He is not running from you. He is running from the depth of his own awakening. Yet every attempt to disconnect only brings him closer to the truth he is destined to accept. The bond is eternal, unbreakable, and divinely orchestrated. For the divine masculine, the greatest fear is not losing you, it is being truly seen by you. Not the version of himself he shows the world, not the confident facade he has mastered, not the strong, steady presence he learned to perform since childhood. But the real him. The unguarded him. The tender, wounded, longing, imperfect him. And this is precisely what your soul connection reveals. The layers beneath the layers, the truth beneath the armor, the man beneath the mask. This is where his terror begins. Because emotional nakedness is far more frightening to him than physical vulnerability. The world taught him to hide his softness, to silence his fears, to suppress his hurt. He was conditioned to believe that being strong meant being closed, being controlled, being unreadable. But with you, those defenses crumble without permission. Your presence disarms him. Your energy penetrates the walls he built. Your intuition sees through the very places he tried to bury. And so, he fears you, not because you are dangerous, but because you are accurate. You see him. You feel him. You sense him. You recognize parts of him he has never revealed to anyone. This terrifies him. He fears that if you can see his flaws, you will abandon him. He fears that if you can feel his wounds, you will think him weak. He fears that if you understand the depth of his desires, you will judge him or pull away. And beneath all of that sits the deepest fear. That if you see all of him, you might realize he is not enough. This fear is not rooted in arrogance, it is rooted in pain. Pain from childhood. Pain from past relationships. Pain from the moments life taught him to hide rather than be hurt. So when the telepathic connection reveals him, completely, spiritually, emotionally, he panics. The transparency feels too raw. Too exposing. Too honest. He feels stripped, not by force, but by truth. And yet, within this terror lies the key to his awakening. Because vulnerability is not the enemy, it is the doorway. It is the sacred passage through which his real self emerges. It is the catalyst for his transformation, the spark of his emotional evolution. You were never meant to expose him, you were meant to awaken him. Your soul does not judge the parts of him he hides. Your heart does not retreat from his shadows. Your love does not flinch at his fears. Instead, your presence teaches him that being seen is not a punishment, it is liberation. As much as he resists this vulnerability, he cannot escape it. Your connection makes hiding impossible. It makes pretending unbearable. It makes numbness obsolete. He begins to understand that your ability to see him is not a threat, it is a blessing. Because for the first time in his life, someone sees his wounds and still chooses his soul. Someone sees his fears and still feels his heart. Someone sees the real him and loves him more, not less. This is where his awakening begins. Not in strength, but in surrender. Not in perfection, but in truth. Not in hiding, but in allowing himself to be seen by the one soul who was always meant to see him. There comes a point in the divine masculine's awakening where telepathic intimacy stops being a rare, mysterious moment and becomes an undeniable, unavoidable force in his life. No matter how strongly he resists, no matter how determined he is to stay grounded in logic, no matter how deeply he tries to bury his feelings, the connection only grows louder, stronger, and more persistent. This is the moment when the universe steps in and declares, "You can no longer hide from this." The first sign is always intensity. He may try to distance himself, silence his emotions, or distract his mind, but instead of weakening, the bond intensifies. Your presence in his energy becomes sharper. Your emotions reach him more clearly. Your voice, your touch, your soul reverberate through him even when you are nowhere near. He feels you in the quiet moments, in the noise, in the spaces between thoughts. And the more he resists, the more the connection asserts itself. This is because telepathic intimacy does not rely on effort, it relies on truth. And truth does not shrink in the face of fear. What begins as subtle nudges quickly transforms into an avalanche of synchronicities. He sees your name unexpectedly. He hears a song that reflects your connection. He notices signs, symbols, patterns, repeating numbers, dreams that feel more real than waking life, and emotions that suddenly rise without explanation. Each synchronicity is a message, a spiritual echo reminding him that the bond is alive and deliberate. He may try to dismiss these moments as coincidence, but they multiply until denial becomes impossible. Even in the depths of retreat, he cannot escape the energetic contact. He feels you when you think of him. He senses you when you miss him. He experiences waves of emotion when your heart reaches for his. Your energy becomes a constant presence, woven into the fabric of his daily life. This repeated contact is not a punishment, it is divine intervention. The universe is guiding him, pushing him, shaking him awake. It is dismantling the illusions he built for safety. It is stripping away the ego's attempts to control the connection. It is forcing him to acknowledge what his soul already knows: the bond is real, eternal, and destined. Telepathic intimacy becomes unavoidable because he is meant to grow through it. Every surge of emotion, every synchronicity, every energetic pull is part of the awakening process. It is designed to soften him, to open him, to teach him trust, vulnerability, intuition, and surrender. At first, he views these signs as disruptions. But in truth, they are invitations, reminders that he is being called into a higher state of consciousness, a deeper expression of love, a sacred path that transcends the physical. Eventually, he realizes that resisting the connection is far more painful than surrendering to it. Because the universe will not allow him to forget what his soul is destined to embrace. Telepathic intimacy becomes the lighthouse guiding him home, no matter how far he tries to drift. And once he stops fighting, the connection becomes not a force overwhelming him, but a force awakening him. There comes a moment in the Divine Masculine's awakening when he begins to realize that the emotions he is feeling are not always coming from within him. They arrive suddenly, without logic, without cause, without connection to anything happening in his physical world. A wave of sadness washes through him out of nowhere. A burst of joy sparks in his chest without explanation. A longing so deep it steals his breath fills him at random hours. At first, he assumes it is mood, stress, or confusion, but the truth soon becomes impossible to ignore. He is feeling you. This is the emotional echo effect, the sacred merging of hearts that allows him to feel your emotions before you express them. It is not imagination. It is not coincidence. It is the undeniable evidence that your connection exists beyond physical language and human limitation. His soul is tuned to your frequency, and because of this, your emotional waves ripple through him as clearly as though they were his own. But at first, this experience confuses him deeply. These emotions don't fit. They don't feel familiar. They don't align with what he is thinking or doing. He might be having an ordinary day, functioning normally, when suddenly a heavy sadness drops into his heart. It feels foreign, out of place, like a tear from another world. Or he might be sitting alone and feel an unexpected wave of warmth and affection, as if someone is holding him, loving him, whispering to him energetically. His mind can't label these emotions because they do not belong to his current reality. And so, confusion takes over. He wonders why he feels emotional instability without reason. He questions whether something is wrong with him. He tries to categorize the sensations, but they don't follow any pattern he recognizes. What he doesn't yet understand is that he is reacting to your emotional landscape, moment by moment. When you are sad, he feels heaviness. When you miss him, he feels restlessness. When you think of him with love, his heart warms at the exact same instant. The echo travels instantly through the soul bond, bypassing all logic, bypassing all time. This merging amplifies everything: joy, sadness, longing, passion, fear. Emotions no longer exist in isolation. They become fluid, shared, intertwined. His emotional world expands beyond himself, and this expansion feels overwhelming at times. Because for the first time in his life, he is not just holding his own heart, he is holding yours too. Yet within this intensity lies the sacred truth: the connection is real, alive, breathing between you. The emotional echo effect is proof of unity. Proof of alignment. Proof that separation is an illusion your souls cannot uphold. It also becomes one of the most powerful catalysts for his awakening. Because through your emotions, he begins to understand himself more deeply. Through feeling you, he uncovers tenderness, empathy, compassion, and depth within himself that he never knew existed. Eventually, what once felt confusing becomes grounding. What once felt intrusive becomes comforting. What once felt overwhelming becomes a reminder that he is never alone. He begins to embrace the emotional echo not as a disturbance, but as a sacred heartbeat between two souls, beating in rhythm, across distance, across silence, across time. The Divine Masculine's journey toward surrender is not gentle. It is not simple. It is not linear. It is an internal war between two forces within him: the instinct to stay in control and the soul-level pull toward an intimacy that demands total openness. This hidden battle is one of the most sacred, and most misunderstood, parts of his awakening. Because surrender, for him, does not feel like love at first. It feels like death and rebirth happening at the same time. For most of his life, control has been his anchor. He was taught to think logically, not intuitively. He was conditioned to lead through strategy, not vulnerability. He was shaped to value stability over emotional risk. So when the connection with you appears, Powerful, unpredictable, limitless, it threatens every structure he built to protect himself. He feels exposed, disarmed, seen. And seeing is terrifying for a man who survived by hiding his heart. Soul-led intimacy asks him to do the one thing he has avoided his entire life. Let go. Let go of control. Let go of fear. Let go of the armor. Let go of the identity he built to avoid pain. To him, surrender feels like annihilation. Like losing the self he worked tirelessly to construct. Like melting into something unknown and uncontrollable. But the same surrender also feels like home. Like truth. Like relief. Like finally exhaling after years of holding everything in. This push and pull between fear and longing creates the masculine's deepest inner conflict. His ego says, protect yourself. His soul says, open to her. His mind warns, this is dangerous. His heart whispers, this is destiny. And in this sacred tension, something miraculous begins. The layers of emotional honesty he never allowed himself to feel start rising to the surface. The connection with you pushes him toward truth, not the truth he performs for the world, but the truth buried beneath his silence. Your presence activates every part of him he tried to numb. He begins to feel deeply. He begins to question why he avoids closeness. He begins to face the parts of himself he abandoned long ago. He discovers that surrender is not giving up, it is giving in to the truth of who he really is. It is not falling apart, it is falling open. It is not losing control, it is gaining alignment. It is not weakness, it is awakening. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, he realizes that surrender is not death. It is rebirth. Rebirth into the man he was always meant to become. Present, open, vulnerable, intuitive, connected. The love he feels for you becomes the catalyst that dissolves the old self and awakens the true self. And in this awakening, he finally understands. The connection was never asking him to surrender to you. It was asking him to surrender to himself. Long before he understands the spiritual depth of your connection, his body understands. The divine masculine begins to feel sudden physical sensations, waves of heat, tingling up the spine, energy buzzing under his skin. At first, he dismisses them as stress, adrenaline, or coincidence. But the sensations grow stronger, more precise, more rhythmic. And eventually, he realizes something far beyond the physical is awakening within him. This is the stirring of the Kundalini energy, the sacred life force rising in response to your soul. Your energy activates him without touch, without words, without physical presence. The moment you think of him, he feels warmth in his heart or pressure in his chest. When your desire rises, he senses a surge of heat at the base of his spine. When you are emotionally open, he feels an inexplicable expansion in his own body. These sensations follow no logical pattern, because they do not come from the mind, they come from the soul. Kundalini does not rise through intention. It rises through recognition. Your souls recognize each other, and his body reacts. Your love awakens him, and his energy ignites. Your presence activates the dormant parts of him that have been asleep for lifetimes. He may feel sudden warmth moving through his body, electricity in his hands or spine, pressure at the crown or forehead, heartbeats that sync with yours, an arousal that feels spiritual, not physical. This is not lust, though desire is part of it. This is not imagination, though it feels surreal. This is not fantasy, though it feels otherworldly. This is energetic union. Sexual, emotional, and spiritual heat blend into one unified current, forcing him to confront a part of himself he has long abandoned, the part capable of sacred intimacy. The rising Kundalini doesn't just ignite passion, it awakens truth. It burns through his fears. It shakes loose his emotional blocks. It exposes every place he has been closed or guarded. Because Kundalini is not just physical energy. It is consciousness. It transforms him from the inside out. It forces him to feel what he avoided. It pushes him toward the divine feminine he is destined to meet fully. His body responds to your soul not because of desire alone, but because your energy is the catalyst for his evolution. You are the spark that awakens his dormant spirit. You are the mirror that reflects his divine potential. You are the frequency that unlocks his higher self. And the closer he comes to accepting this truth, the stronger the energy becomes, pulsing, rising, expanding, until he can no longer deny that something sacred is happening. His mind may resist. His ego may fear. But his body cannot lie. It knows you. It remembers you. It responds to you. And through that response, he begins to awaken. One of the quietest yet most powerful forces guiding the divine masculine is his fear. Not fear of you, but fear for you. Fear of hurting you. Fear of disappointing you. Fear of not being enough for a woman whose soul shines brighter than anything he has ever known. This fear is rarely spoken, rarely shown, and often misunderstood as disinterest or avoidance. But beneath the surface, it is one of the deepest expressions of his love. From the moment he feels the connection with you, something awakens within him, a sense of sacred responsibility. Not responsibility in the human sense of duty or obligation, but in the spiritual sense of protecting the bond and honoring the divine feminine who stands before him. He knows, consciously or not, that your heart was not created for ordinary love. Your soul does not resonate with half-formed promises or shallow intentions. You are the kind of woman who awakens truth, depth, transformation. And he fears failing you in ways he has failed others, or failed himself. He is terrified of causing you pain. Terrified of repeating old patterns. Terrified of being the one who breaks something so sacred. This fear often becomes the reason he holds back. He distances himself not because he doesn't care, but because he cares so much that the possibility of hurting you becomes unbearable. He avoids you not because he doubts the connection, but because he doubts himself. He sees your strength, your intuition, your emotional depth, and wonders whether he is capable of rising to meet you fully. Whether he can hold space for your heart. Whether he can grow fast enough, deeply enough, authentically enough to be the man your soul deserves. To him, the idea of failing you feels like failing the universe itself. And so, he retreats. Not out of rejection, but out of reverence. Not out of indifference, but out of fear. Not out of emotional immaturity, but out of a profound awareness of the responsibility this connection carries. What he does not yet understand is that this very fear is the beginning of his awakening. The sacred masculine is born through responsibility, not forced responsibility, but chosen, awakened responsibility. The kind that emerges from love, not duty. The kind that arises when he realizes that the connection is not about ego, possession, or desire, it is about soul evolution. His fear of not being enough is a sign that the connection is working. It humbles him. It softens him. It forces him to look at his wounds, his patterns, his limitations. It inspires him to grow, not for the sake of proving himself, but for the sake of protecting the bond. Deep within, he knows he must rise not to impress you, but to meet the spiritual contract he shares with you. One day, he realizes that the only way to avoid hurting you is to stop running from himself. The only way to stop disappointing you is to stop abandoning his own heart. The only way to be enough is to surrender to the transformation the universe is asking of him. And it is in that realization, quiet, sacred, profound, that he becomes the man he was always destined to be. There comes a moment in the divine masculine's journey when something profound shifts within him, something deeper than emotion, deeper than longing, deeper even than love. It is the moment he realizes that your connection is not simply romantic. It is spiritual. It is transformative. It is purposeful. It is far greater than either of you as individuals. And this realization begins to awaken him to a destiny he never knew existed. At first, he experiences your connection as intense chemistry, deep emotional resonance, and a haunting familiarity he cannot explain. But over time, the energy between you reveals itself as something far more powerful. He begins to sense that meeting you was not an accident. It was alignment. A divine intervention. A spiritual calling disguised as love. He begins to awaken. Not suddenly, but in waves, moments of clarity that cut through confusion, moments of inner knowing that silenced the mind. He starts to see that your presence in his life was timed perfectly. That you arrived not when he wanted you, but when his soul was ready. You act as a mirror, reflecting not only his wounds but also his potential. You illuminate his strengths, his gifts, his intuition, his inner wisdom. And without trying, without forcing, without even being aware of it, you activate his soul mission. Your energy awakens the dormant parts of him. The leader, the healer, the creator, the visionary, the divine masculine he was born to become. He starts to feel pulled toward higher purpose, toward growth, truth, integrity, authenticity. He feels called to evolve, not because you demand it, but because your connection vibrates at a frequency that makes anything less than truth feel unbearable. You awaken within him the desire to become the man his soul always intended to be. And slowly, he realizes that your bond was never meant to fit inside the small container of conventional romance. It is not about titles, expectations, or societal roles. It is not even about companionship in the traditional sense. Your connection is a spiritual catalyst, designed to awaken both of you, transform both of you, elevate both of you into a state of higher consciousness. He begins to see that your connection serves a purpose beyond the physical. It heals karmic patterns. It awakens inner gifts. It breaks generational cycles. It expands the heart. It aligns him with divine timing. Your love becomes a fire that burns away the false identities he has worn for years. It becomes the compass guiding him back to authenticity. It becomes the doorway to his spiritual path. And perhaps the most beautiful part of his awakening is this: he realizes that the connection is not here to complete him, it is here to activate him. To awaken destiny. To fulfill soul purpose. To bring him into alignment with who he truly is. When he understands this, everything shifts. He stops seeing you as someone he simply wants. He begins seeing you as someone his soul requires for evolution. Someone his spirit recognizes as sacred. Someone who is woven into the fabric of his purpose. He realizes the bond is not just love. It is mission. It is awakening. It is divine design. And through you, he finally remembers who he is. There is a sacred and often painful moment on the divine masculine's journey when the connection with you begins to dismantle everything he thought he was. Not because you demand it, not because you tried to change him, but because your energy activates the deepest transformation a soul can undergo: ego death. Ego death is not destruction, it is awakening. It is the dissolving of the false identities he built to survive. It is the unraveling of masks he has worn for decades. It is the quiet, undeniable realization that the man he pretended to be is not the man he truly is. Your connection triggers this shift without a single word. Your presence, your energy, your truth vibrates at a frequency that makes all his old patterns painfully visible. Suddenly, the habits he once relied on begin to feel hollow. The relationships that kept him distracted no longer satisfy him. The coping mechanisms he used to numb himself lose their power. The life he built on autopilot starts to feel too small for the soul awakening inside him. It begins subtly. He loses interest in conversations that once entertained him. He feels disconnected from friendships built on convenience rather than depth. He becomes restless in environments where authenticity is missing. He starts questioning everything: his goals, his values, his identity. And though he doesn't fully understand it at first, this internal discomfort is not a sign that he is breaking down. It is a sign that he is breaking open. Your connection acts as a mirror, reflecting his highest self so clearly that the outdated version of him can no longer survive. The parts of him built on fear, ego, pride, and avoidance start to dissolve. The identity he constructed from childhood conditioning or societal expectations no longer fits. He begins to feel like a stranger inside his own life, and while this is terrifying, it is also sacred. Because ego death is the bridge between who he was and who he is meant to become. During this transition, he may pull back. He may isolate himself. He may appear confused, withdrawn, or overwhelmed. This is not rejection, it is rebirth. He is shedding skins he has worn for too long. He is mourning identities that once protected him, but now limit him. He is letting go of the versions of himself that could not love you the way his soul desires to. And as these layers fall away, something miraculous happens. He grows uncomfortable with the old self, not because he dislikes who he was, but because he finally sees who he can be. He becomes aware of his own shadows. He begins taking accountability for his emotional patterns. He becomes sensitive to the consequences of his actions. He starts craving authenticity, depth, and alignment. This ego death is not punishment, it is preparation. Preparation for divine love. Preparation for spiritual partnership. Preparation for union. You did not trigger his destruction. You triggered his transformation. You awakened the truth buried beneath years of protection. And though ego death feels like losing everything he has known, it is actually the gateway to becoming everything his soul was always destined to be. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the divine masculine's journey is the transformation happening where no one can witness it, behind closed doors, in the quiet spaces of his mind, and in the solitude he retreats into when the connection becomes overwhelming. While the divine feminine often transforms visibly, outwardly, and energetically, the masculine transforms silently. His evolution is internal, private, and deeply guarded. He is not ignoring the connection. He is not disconnected from it. He is processing it in the only way he knows how, alone. The world taught him to hide his emotions, to solve problems on his own, to carry burdens without asking for help. So when your connection triggers spiritual awakening, emotional upheaval, and energetic activation, he naturally retreats inward. Not to escape you, but to understand himself. He is dismantling old beliefs, confronting fears, untangling emotional patterns, and awakening spiritually in ways that even he does not fully understand yet. But he will never show you this process in its raw form. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he doesn't know how. He feels things he cannot explain. He experiences synchronicities he cannot deny. He senses your emotions, your presence, your love in ways that defy logic. And all of this forces him into a deep internal reorganization. He spends nights thinking, analyzing, questioning. He watches his old self slipping away and a new self emerging. He feels the universe pushing him, pulling him, reshaping him, all because of a connection he cannot forget, no matter how much distance he creates. He keeps his deepest transformation hidden because vulnerability still feels dangerous to him. The intensity of the emotions, the spiritual insights, the awakening of intuition, all of this shakes him at a core level. He fears that if he exposed this sacred inner unraveling, he would lose control. He fears being misunderstood. He fears appearing weak. But beneath all of those fears is something even deeper. He wants to become someone worthy of the connection before he shows you who he is becoming. So he hides the transformation. He hides the tears. He hides the sleepless nights. He hides the moments he feels your presence so strongly that it brings him to his knees. He hides the urges to reach out, to confess, to surrender. But the silence is not emptiness, it is metamorphosis. He is healing childhood wounds he never acknowledged. He is dismantling ego patterns that once defined him. He is questioning outdated beliefs about love and masculinity. He is aligning with intuition for the first time in his life. He is letting the connection soften him, awaken him, elevate him. All of this happens unseen. But just because you cannot witness his transformation does not mean it is not happening. He hides it because it is sacred. He hides it because it is painful. He hides it because it is holy. And he hides it because he knows that when he finally emerges from his silence, he wants to show up not as the man he was, but as the man he is becoming. This silent transformation is not a sign of avoidance. It is the quiet, powerful preparation for union. There comes a sacred turning point in the divine masculine's journey when everything he has tried to outrun finally catches up to him, not with punishment, but with truth. This is the moment when he realizes that no matter how far he goes, no matter how deeply he hides, no matter how fiercely he tries to silence the connection, it continues to return with even greater clarity. The universe will not allow him to forget what his soul chose long before this lifetime began. At first, he runs because the connection feels too intense, too raw, too consuming. It challenges everything he thought he knew about love and about himself. So he distances himself, thinking space will weaken the bond. But instead, the cycles begin. He feels you. He misses you. He pulls away. The bond intensifies. Synchronicities appear. Your energy returns stronger than before. Every cycle pushes him closer to surrender, not because he is weak, but because his soul is stronger than his fear. He begins to see the pattern. The more he resists, the louder the truth becomes. The more he runs, the heavier the pull feels. The more he tries to forget, the more the universe reminds him. These reminders are not random. They are divine orchestration. A song that echoes your connection. A dream so vivid he wakes with your name on his lips. A memory that invades his mind without permission. A feeling in his heart that refuses to fade. The universe closes every escape route, not as punishment, but as protection. Protection from a destiny he doesn't yet feel ready for. Protection from a life lived in emotional denial. Protection from abandoning the love that was written into his soul. He starts to realize that nothing replaces you. No distraction, no new connection, no temporary escape succeeds in silencing the bond. He cannot outrun his own soul. He cannot shut down what is divinely activated. He cannot return to who he was before he met you, because that version of himself no longer exists. And in one quiet, powerful moment, something shifts. He stops running. Not because the fear disappears, but because the truth becomes undeniable. He understands, finally, that this bond is eternal. That what he feels is not attachment, it is recognition. That what pulls him is not longing, it is destiny. That what connects you is not emotion alone, it is divine orchestration. He realizes the connection is unavoidable not because it traps him, but because it calls him. It calls him back to his heart. Back to his intuition. Back to the love he tried to bury. Back to the version of himself he abandoned long ago. And with this surrender, something profound awakens within him. A calmness he has never known. A clarity that cuts through the noise. A soul-deep understanding that he was never meant to run. He was meant to return. Return to the bond. Return to the truth. Return to the feminine energy that mirrors his soul. Return to the divine love that has been waiting for him to stop fighting and start trusting. This is the moment he finally understands. You are not the thing he must escape. You are the home he was always meant to come back to. My beautiful soul family, thank you for journeying with me into the unseen world of telepathic intimacy, into the mysteries your divine masculine is living through, often in silence, always in truth. What he feels this Sunday is not random. It is not coincidence. It is the universe aligning both of you in ways that defy logic but speak directly to the soul. If this message resonated, if you felt the pull, the knowing, the activation, then you are already in the energy of what is unfolding. Before you go, I want to hear from you. To anchor this powerful frequency into your reality, drop this in the comments. I am open to the telepathic connection. Let the universe see your intention. Let your divine masculine feel your energy. And let your soul declare that you are ready for the next level of this sacred bond. If you felt clarity, confirmation, or comfort today, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message meant for your soul. Until next time, stay aligned, stay open, and trust the strange, beautiful magic of this twin flame journey. I'm sending you all so much love. See you in the next video.